Namaste. I am Dr. Shantakumari from Mata Ayurveda Eye Hospital, Thiruvananthapuram. Today I am talking about refractive errors. There are the number of kids suffering from different types of refractive errors are very high world over, I think. So many of the parents used to ask actually what is this refractive error and how it is happening in the eyes. That is a confusion. So let us consider it. Before coming to refractive error, we have to know what is refraction in the eye. Okay, refraction is the deviation of light rays when it passes from one medium to another. And there are so many factors which influences the refraction. The transparency of the medium and the constitution and the density. These are some of the factors that influences the refraction. And in the eye, there are 4 refractive media like this. That means through which light rays passes. The first is cornea. That is the outermost layer of the eye, named as cornea. It is transparent, purely transparent and spherical in its surface and having its own metabolic activities just like any other tissue of the body. And second is aqueous humor. It is a fluid circulating in nature and is purely transparent. It actually nourishes the structures of the body. It is derived from the blood, and after circulating and after nourishing the structures, it returns to the venous circulation. And the third is lens. Lens is a crystalline lens. When we think, hear the name lens, most of the people sometimes think of a material which is just like a glass piece on the spectacles. It is not like that. It is a biological device having its own metabolic activities. It is a tissue made up of live cells and having its own properties and functions in the body, just like our skin or blood, like that. Okay. And the fourth is vitreous humor. It is, in a way, it is jelly-like in nature and is transparent and is comparatively dense and is not circulating just like aqueous humor. It fills the posterior chamber of the eyeball and actually it gives the shape to the eyeball. And the light rays which is coming from the object, reflected from the object, it reaches the cornea first and passes through all these 4 media. And while passing through the media, it has a deviation in such a way that finally it converges on a particular point on retina. So there are four particular points of refraction in our eyes. First is, we have already seen that refraction is the deviation of light rays when it passes from one medium to another. The first junction is ear and cornea. So that is the first point of refraction. When that means light rays when touches cornea, it gets a deviation. So that is the first point. Then it passes from cornea to the aqueous humor. That is the second point. Then from the aqueous humor to the lens. That is the next point. Then from the lens to the vitreous humor. That is the next point. Finally, it passes through the vitreous humor and reaches and converges on a particular point on the retina. When it reaches the retina, that means that object from which the light rays was reflected is transformed or it is changed to a biological factor. And this factor or this biological matter contains all the details or it represents all the features of this particular object. And it can be transformed to the original object by a particular device or a mechanism. And that mechanism is actually our brain. I am not going to that details, it is another aspect. Okay, now when there is any error in any of these medium or any of these refractive junctions, happens, and so that the light rays are not focusing on the retina on the particular point, that condition, particular condition is known as refractive error. Okay, so that may be because of any factor, maybe the changes or abnormalities any of this media. The main points are, one is the corneal surface, that is the first point. Any abnormality in the curvature of the cornea or in the abnormalities in the surface of the cornea are capable of making refractive error. In the same way, any changes in the lens, that also is a very important factor. Any change in the curvature of the lens or these abnormalities on the surface and the density and the metabolical abnormalities, anything may create some error in its refraction. So, in conclusion, we can say, in any change in the refraction due to any abnormalities of the refractive media is capable of developing refractive error. And because of this error, some changes, some problems happens to that person. If it is not converging on the retina and instead it is focusing in front of the retina, that particular error is known as short-sightedness or myopia. Here the patient will not be able to see distant objects. Only near objects can be seen. That is known as myopia or short-sightedness. Here we have to note one more point. If the length of the eyeball from the posterior to the anterior point, it is long, more long or bigger in size, then there is a possibility of light rays not getting converged on the back or the particular point on retina. There also there is a possibility of developing myopia. Then in the another point, this problem is the light rays are not focusing on the retina, but instead it is focusing beyond the retina. In that condition, the patient may not be able to see near objects. No, they'll be able to see only the far objects, may not be able to see near objects. That condition is known as long-sightedness or hypermetropia. Okay. Still, there is another situation when the light rays are not focusing on a particular single point. It may be scattered or there will be multifocal. That may be due to the refractive index of the media different in different surface, and there will be some considerable abnormalities in the curvature. In such a situation, it may not be able to focus on a single point. Not in front or back, maybe sometimes in front, but in different points. In such situations, the patient may not be able to see the object clearly. There may be blurring or scattered like that. That condition is known as astigmatism. These are the main refractive errors in the patients. Myopia, where there is focusing in front, and hypermetropia, where focusing in beyond the retina, and astigmatism, there is no focusing on a single point. Okay, here we can conclude that if there is any abnormality in the refraction of the light rays due to the abnormalities of the refractive media, that is the tissues of the eyeball, there is a possibility of these types of refractive errors that can be managed by Ayurvedic methods. Okay, thank you for hearing me. I am Dr. Shantakumari from Mata.